Good morning. Welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Santa Clarita Hearing Center. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host
Dr. Jean Dorio.
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, we have our one and only Dr. Ginny Veloz, who's the owner of one of our sponsors, Santa Clarita Hearing Center. Good morning, my love. No, it's good afternoon now, isn't it?
Good afternoon.
It sure is.
Yeah, that's right.
I keep forgetting that we're doing it at 12 instead of 11. So, what's up?
What's up?
Yes. Hearing, I
Hearing
hope.
is up.
Good,
Happy
good.
Mother's Day to everybody.
Yes.
Everybody
Yes,
had a good Mother's
congratulations,
Day.
everyone.
Yes. Sure did.
We got together with my family for the first time in a very long time outside, and we
Oh, cool.
celebrated, and my mom wore her hearing aids,
Good for her.
and she heard really well. We couldn't talk about her behind her back, so it was a very nice day. So a happy belated Mother's Day to everybody.
Yes, yes, it was. And the weather was beautiful.
Yes.
That
very
was
nice.
really, really nice.
Yeah.
That was one of the nicest things because we were all able to gather inside, outside, both. The combination was wonderful.
Did you go up to the Antelope Valley, Barbara?
Yes, I did. My
How
grandson
was
my grandson came down and picked me up and then brought me back home, but all the family was up there except my granddaughter from who's in Virginia. And but it was very, very nice. It really was. And I'd rather pay him to come and get me and bring me back than pay somebody else to do it, you know, the Ubers, the Lyfts, and what have you. And because if I go up there and I drink a glass of wine, either for lunch or dinner, I don't want to drive home, not
Yeah.
40 miles. So
Right.
I'd rather pay him to do it, and he's more than happy to. So,
Nice.
cool?
yes, everybody had a lovely time and good food.
Good. Good.
And I very seldom ever eat sandwiches, but these sandwiches were delicious
Good.
Why don't you eat sandwiches?
because I don't like bread.
Oh gosh, I wish that was my problem.
I don't like bread. So
Huh.
I'll nibble on the edges of the bread, but I eat what's inside. So consequently, I'll devour maybe 5 or 6 half
Okay.
sandwiches, but I take the middle out, not the bread. No, the only time I'll eat bread is if I have a piece of cinnamon toast for breakfast in the morning.
Okay.
And I love cinnamon toast. Oh, that's very good. That and half a plate full of fruit. You know, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. They're all so good. And they're good for you, too. Of course, they got lots of sugar in them, but, you know, I need to be sweet.
You
are what
already
you
are,
eat.
Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, enough of me talking.
Yes.
Let's talk about why you're here and what you have to offer.
Well, I'm here to talk about hearing and the importance of taking care of any hearing issues you think you might have or other people who are around you, family and friends, think you might have. And I'm here to remind everybody 50 years old is the age where you should be doing a hearing screening. Chances are you're hearing fine at 50, and that's great. And we have a baseline, and we'll be able to compare later on to that baseline to see any changes that might be happening with your hearing. And there will be changes. It's a normal part of life. It's wear and tear on the ears. You think about it, the ears are always on, which is,
That's
know, they even when we're sleeping, they never shut off from the point
even
in
when
the
you
womb.
don't want them to be on, they're on.
They're on. From in the womb, you see the headphones going over the belly so that the baby can listen to, music, classical music, or what have you. Once, the ears are developed, they're on and they don't ever shut off. That's a lot of hours. That's a lot of time that the ears are working for us. So they do wear out, and that's okay. and it really is okay because we have something to help it. So
That's
thank
right.
goodness that we have hearing aids, and we have doctors of audiology, hearing doctors, to help program devices so that you can hear the way you should.
And that helps tremendously when you can hear.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
it really
Mhm.
does because I've experienced not being able to hear someone when they've been, you know, quite a bit away from me and they're just jabbering away like crazy and I'm just dying to know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I can't hear because they're too
Yeah.
far away.
I
And
mean,
that is absolutely frustrating, especially as you get older.
and imagine how much strain and stress that puts on the rest of your body when it
Yes.
really doesn't have to.
Yes.
You know, if you put some cotton in your ears or some little foam earplugs in your ears and go out and go to the market and go to the bank and try to talk to people who are out there and see the difficulty that, you know, it's hard, it's frustrating, you want to rip those little foam plugs out so that you can hear proper again. Um, and that's what hearing aids will do for you. They'll give you back, that little oomph that you need so that you can communicate again with ease, so that you can focus on other things like remembering what you're talking about. Because without remembering what we're talking about, we don't have a chance to retain the information. And if we don't retain it, this is where we start talking about breakdown in cognitive ability and dementia.
Now you mentioned 50.
hmm
What is the magical age of 50 have to do with hearing from a physical sense?
Well, I would say that 50 is still a relative age where we're probably going to have normal hearing, but now the majority of the breakdown begins.
Ah,
That's where it starts. And the problem is if it starts when we're 52, 55, and we go, God, people mumble so much more these days. These kids, they talk so fast, and I just don't understand what they're saying. See, we justify it. We don't think about it being us. It's you
them.
guys.
Yes.
so
It's them.
so we go a few more years and then a few more years until now people are going, Barbara, you really should go get your hearing checked because you're not hearing very well.
No.
And it's been so many years. It's been, 7 to 10 years that you've been struggling. You just don't know you're struggling because you think it's us. So 50 is a good time to come in and get a hearing screening, get it done, and then you might not come back for another couple years. But we're going to monitor it and we're going to watch the changes. And when the changes start to occur, we're going to say, no, Barbara, it's not us, it's you. And it's just part of the way your ears are. So let's do something about it.
It's part of the aging process, is what you're saying.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's just like everything else. We go and we get our eyes checked every year because it's part of the aging process where our eyes don't work as well. And we go into the dentist twice a year to have our teeth cleaned so that we can prevent problems. And we have our colonoscopies every 5 or 10 years, depending on who you are. We do our mammograms once a year. We go for our physicals. We do really all this preventative so that we can catch any problems before they become major.
Except for ears.
except
Isn't
for
that
ears.
amazing?
And I don't really understand why the poor ears have been left out, but I take it upon myself to educate and let everybody know. Don't leave your ears out. They're important too.
It's interesting. When you start having problems seeing, it's apparent very quickly. It was with me because things started getting a little bit blurry. I'd look off at a picture in the distance and wait a minute, what's in that picture? And it didn't used to be that way.
Well, the picture, in your brain, in your memory, the picture is the picture. It can't change. The picture is the picture.
That's right.
But with the ears, when you squint with your eyes and you're squinting and you're trying to see, you're squinting with your ears too. But the person you're talking to in your brain could change. And it's wow, there's so many more people with accents now. There's so many more people who mumble. Like what's going on with the way people talk these days or on television? Why is it that I can't understand what they're talking about on television anymore? That darn channel must have changed the way they send the sound out across the TV waves. Don't ask me to explain how a TV works. I don't know. It's
But
always
you know how the ears work.
it's always baffled me. But I know how the ears work. I've been studying the ears for 22 years. I've worked with thousands and thousands of patients and ears, and I can tell you the incredible change in somebody's life that hearing aids can make. I have been told over and over again how many marriages that I have saved. And, it's something, there's a big negative implication with hearing aids. And I'm not.
It doesn't make sense. But men mainly are the first ones to deny, in my opinion, at least from the men I've known in my life. And my husband was one of them.
Yeah, I've worked with my share of women who may admit they have a problem, but they also admit their vanity. And look, I'm all about it. Whether you're vain or not, I'm looking for the best solution for you that's the most discreet. But there was a time when glasses had a big impact, people with such a negative connotation. And now look at all the cute frames and the colors, and people use them as a fashion accessory.
That's true.
And, and with hearing aids, we keep trying to make them smaller and more invisible. And I'm going to tell you right now, a hearing loss is 1,000 times more visible than a hearing aid. A hearing aid on your ear sits discreetly in the back or discreetly inside the ear. But when you go, huh? What? What was that? Repeat that? Huh? That is so obvious. Everybody knows. So it's okay. Do something about it. Make yourself appear younger. Get some hearing aids and hear again. Upgrade old technology and hear even better. It's just very, very, very important for so many of these reasons.
And the consequences, Jenny, as you're mentioning, the consequences should be clarified with those senior men who we're talking about right now, because when you can't hear, it affects the ramifications and what it affects in our lives, because we can't hear well, is tremendous for your driving, for when you're using your telephone or your cell phone, when you're watching television, when you're at family gatherings, Father's Day, Mother's Day. When you don't have your hearing, the consequences are tremendous. You miss out. You miss detail. You miss an understanding. And sometimes you might even miss something incredibly important about somebody's life, or a date that needs to be remembered, or a bill that needs to be paid that they're reminding you of. These are all the consequences when you can't hear. So for those guys who are listening, with Father's Day's coming up now too, get a hearing test done. You don't have to be 50. It'd be great if you're younger than 50 and you need it, but for sure if you're older than 50, if you haven't had your hearing tested, and if it's okay when you do get it tested, that's great. But don't lose the opportunity and the chance, because the consequences are tremendous and negative. And we need to make sure that our listeners who do listen to us say, hey, we have to make sure our quality of life is assured here in Santa Clarita by getting a hearing test done.
I find that with men, something has to happen to make them come in. And I remember one of my patients years ago who said that he was with a group of people and they were talking and he couldn't understand and follow the conversation. So he looked like he was paying attention and he waited until everybody stopped talking. And then he decided to ask about their friend Joe. And it turned out that what they had been talking about was that Joe had passed away. And it was mortifying for him. And that was what made him finally come in and say, I got to do something. So I think with women are just better about going to the doctor and taking care of themselves. Yes. And men, when something happens like that, they miss, I had one patient who was told to pick up the granddaughter at a specific time, and he misheard the time. And the little granddaughter was at the school by herself,
Whoa.
The teachers couldn't leave because nobody had picked her up. Where's Grandpa? He got the wrong time. He came, that was it. I'm ready. I got to do something. So I find that with men, there has to be some kind of event that happens. Usually. I hope not. I hope this conversation helps people know that, a hearing test is painless. Insurance typically covers it. It's pretty quick, maybe 15 minutes, and it's done.
It's just a test.
That's all.
Yes, it's just a test.
Yeah, it's just like getting your eyes checked.
That's right. But like we were talking, women seem to have no problems going to a doctor, getting their mammograms done, having their certain things done every so often when they're supposed to. Most women are. They do that. I do that.
Me too.
And I attribute it to my longevity because I have taken care of myself. And I've always felt that was very important. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're having a problem hearing, go check it out.
If you think you're having a problem hearing, if you're hearing ringing or buzzing or humming, that's a sign that that's a scar, that there's been damage done typically. And it's time to just come in and have a baseline audio done. It's really quite simple. Let's
talk further about that when we come back from the break. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
Today for lunch, why not try The Sandwich Shop, located on Avenue Stamford, right off Rye Canyon. The Sandwich Shop offers dozens of hot or cold, affordable, premium deli sandwiches. Gourmet soups and salads are also available. Regulars indulge in the cheesy focaccia rolls, which is a customer favorite. Then top it off with owner Charlie Chung's chunky chocolate chip cookies. Breakfast and catering is also available. The Sandwich Shop, since 1983, located on Avenue Stamford, right off Rye Canyon. ValenciaSandwichShop.com to place your order.
Why did Mercedes-Benz of Valencia win the Dealer of Excellence Award in 2019?
Because we strive to provide the most outstanding sales experience.
Mercedes-Benz of Valencia COO Chris Paz.
We know you have high expectations. Our stellar team will meet and exceed your expectations. That's why we were named Mercedes Best of the Best, placing us in the top 10% of all Mercedes dealers nationwide.
Find out how you can lease a new Mercedes for unbelievably low monthly payments. Details at mbzvalencia.com.
Men Cryotherapy is open. As always, they continue to clean and sanitize all equipment. Social distancing will be enforced and hand sanitizer will be provided throughout the facility. Temperature checks will be done daily on each employee, and masks will be provided if forgotten. They have amazing welcome back specials, including the $99 performance package, which includes a cryo session, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, which boosts recovery of damaged cells, the aromatherapy oxygen bar, Nucom, and infrared sauna. There's also a beauty package with a cryofacial, infrared sauna, and more. And don't forget their extensive selection of health and wellness products, including CBD. Men Cryotherapy is open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. For more information, go to MEND, MEND, cryotherapy.com. MEND Cryotherapy on Newhall Ranch Road in the Gateway Shopping Center.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking one of the sponsors of the Senior Hour, Dr. Ginny Veloz of Santa Clarita Hearing Center. And we were talking at the end before the break about ringing in the ears, tinnitus, and that. Let's continue that because that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, ringing in the ears is so very, very common. A lot of people experience it. A little ring here and there, and it goes away. Very normal. When the ringing continues, or the buzzing, or the humming, I've heard it, bacon sizzling, cicadas. I've heard everybody has their own sound that they hear. Could be a side effect of several things. It could be a side effect of medication. If you've started a new medication, it's something that you might want to talk to your doctor about and say, look, I've got this ringing in my ears now. What am I supposed to do? Wax in the ears can cause ringing. Infection can cause ringing. Fluid in the ears can cause ringing. The biggest culprit is nerve damage. And nerve damage is what we know and talk about as hearing loss. It's like a scar. When those little tiny hairs in the ear break down, the scar, that's the way I like to think of it, is that there can be some noises in the ears that you hear that other people don't.
Well, what is a typical way for those little hearing, what do you call them?
The little hair cells.
The little hairs. How do they get damaged?
They get damaged from overuse.
By that means?
It could be one time of going to the shooting range or being close to a firecracker when it goes off, or it can be a lifetime of just normal everyday noise.
And when you see teenagers in a car and you hear the blaring music when you're 2 or 3 cars away, you know damage is being done to those kids' ears.
Interestingly,
and they don't know that.
At the concert arenas, if you go to the Forum or you go to the what's it called where the Lakers play? Anyway,
Staples.
the Staples Center. Thank you. Barbara's face. I don't know. Why are you looking at me?
She's thinking stationary Staples.
She's
Stationary
going.
store.
What?
She's saying the Lakers. That's at Dodger Stadium, right?
I don't know.
At these concert venues, it can get so loud when you go to hear live music at these concerts that if you go to one of the people who work there or one of the concession stands and you ask for some earplugs, generally they're going to give them to you. And that's because these musicians and these venues have been sued because of hearing loss that has occurred when somebody has gone because the music is so loud. When we walk out of those concerts and we go, wow, it's weird. I feel like I've cotton in my ears. And I hear ringing in my ears. those hair cells are going nuts. They've been overused.
Leave me alone.
Yes.
Leave me alone.
And then we go home, we go to sleep, it's quiet, we wake up in the morning, our hearing is back, the ringing is gone, and we're good. That is a sign that there has been damage done. So how many times are we going to put our ears through that? We can get earplugs at any pharmacy, supermarket, Target, Walmart that we can put in our ears for situations like that. If you're in situations like that a lot, we make custom ear molds so they're comfortable. They fit well, they give you the most noise reduction, and you're able to wear them over and over with more comfort.
Cool.
So please, if you're somebody who's in that type of environment a lot, if you work at one of those venues, you've got to protect your ears.
But the sad part about this, though, is that parents with teenagers, younger people, I don't think are cued into this type of problem occurring down the road. I really don't. And it seems to me that at some point in the health classes and in the schools that they would bring up hearing situations.
I would love to go into the schools and talk to the kids about hearing loss and let them listen to different recordings of what things sound like with different types of hearing losses and how muffled it gets. I remember when I was a kid, the big thing was smoking, and we got to see those fake lungs and how black they were versus the healthy lungs that didn't smoke, and that resonated with me clearly. I still remember it, and I never smoked. But yeah, I mean, teaching the kids little to watch for these loud sounds and to protect their ears would be fantastic. I think the parents of teenagers are picking and choosing their battles, and this is a battle that they feel, that's just an opinion.
That's down the road. That's down the road.
And
I've got
notice,
this to handle now.
Yeah.
You notice that a lot of kids, they're using the earbuds, and because of learning at home, they've had to use earphones, and they will sometimes get so used to it they'll turn the volume up, or turn the volume up because it's the outside environment they're in. They can't hear either or concentrate. So I think we're going to see in a few years, a lot of people getting hearing tests and having deficits because they didn't protect their hearing and didn't know to protect their hearing. And that's the sad part of what's going on right now. They're oblivious, like Jenny, you said. They're going to be oblivious to not knowing that they're developing or have developed hearing problems because of the situation. So, when you're in the military, there are things that you do that affect your hearing. But, you try to protect it, but, it's going to affect you. And down the line, they get into trouble. But with what's gone on recently and how we've approached interacting in our society, with school even, I think we're going to see a lot of kids grow up and start having early onset of deficits, ringing in the ears and decreased hearing and things like that, that they're not going to be aware of. So we have to teach them now, one, to protect their hearing, and then secondly, we have to be able to make sure they get evaluated appropriately. And, we were talking about guys not doing it, but it's going to be guys and girls. And I think, how we, like when we have daylight savings and go on and off, we change batteries in our smoke detectors and things like that. Maybe we should have the same thing, be able to give cards that say, get your hearing test. With Medicare, I believe the hearing test is free, right? Isn't it?
I don't know.
They pay a portion, so
I think the screening part of it, is paid for by Medicare.
Yeah.
So because it is, you can make up some cards. And I tell you, at least guys, when you see something free as a guy, you go, oh, okay, I might do this. So for maybe Father's Day or Mother's Day, we can hand out cards that say free hearing test. And whether when you're 65 or older, it will be free. So something to think about, because I think a lot of people are, as we age, there are going to be a lot of people that have deficit, and then they're not going to be aware of the consequences of having lost a friend and not knowing that he passed away because you didn't hear it. That's to me, that's a major problem.
Well,
and you can't hear a siren, and when you're driving, that's a major problem.
Yeah, and I think like what you were talking about with younger people coming out of this this COVID situation and more hearing loss and more tinnitus being seen, I absolutely agree with you. And what I'd really like is for the physicians out there and the pediatricians to think about this as well, because typically we go to our doctor first and we say, hey, I have this noise in my ears, and I don't think I didn't have it before. What should I do? I'd like for the physicians to say, it's time to get a hearing test. I think a lot of times when our patients are younger, we think, oh, well, a little ringing in the ears, that's okay, And so I'd love for physicians to be aware and to utilize the hearing doctors in their areas more. We're here. Yeah.
So, Jenny, you had mentioned schools. Do schools screen their students ever at any grade level for hearing,
Yes.
Vision, things like that, but especially in your field for hearing?
Yes.
Do the schools do that?
School mandated grades are kindergarten, second grade, fifth grade, seventh, ninth, and 12th, I believe. So those are mandated grades in public school systems. If you're homeschooling or you're going to a private school, those are not mandated. So that came about because we're trying to find these children and get them aided sooner rather than later. And of course, several years ago, the newborn hearing screening laws were passed. So every infant born gets a hearing screening before they leave the hospital, and any infant born outside of the hospital must go do a hearing screening to make sure. And now we're just finding these kids and we're aiding them at 1 month old, 3 weeks old, and we're getting hearing aids on them. We're doing cochlear implants on them. And it's just really been a huge help. Yeah.
That's great. That's great to hear. I think, that awareness by teachers, that awareness by doctors and nurses, healthcare professionals like you, I think, make a huge difference, because, how many during my time did I not know that certain people had hearing problems or visual problems and failed out of society because of it, ended up in prison or on the street or whatever, where we could have ended up saving them. And I feel bad that, at least for my generation, I know that we did not do that. We did not have I never had gotten a hearing test in grade school, never. And so, it's good to hear now that society has recognized this, Jenny, as a problem, and you're there to help those out who might be suffering and could change their whole life.
When we talk about little ones, infants, and small children, we know from the research that we have until 5 years old to learn speech and language. So if we are learning we're learning 2 languages at the same time, that's great. But after 5 years old, if you're going to try to learn a new language and bring it on, you won't speak it like a native. It's just the way the mouth is formed and the way the brain works. There's certain sounds that we're not able to make with our mouth after 5. And so we don't want to wait until a child is 3 or 4 for the parents to say, you know, Johnny's not talking because we only have till 5. So this was the reason that came about with the hearing screening program and catching these children right at birth to make sure that they could hear, and if not, get them aided so they can learn speech and language clearly. My patients that were aided very young like that have perfect speech for English, and mainstreamed in school, no special ed. I mean, it's just phenomenal when you see the difference. And these kids just grow up like any other kids. And that's not the way it used to be, like you were just saying.
Well, now, do these youngsters have hearing aids? And if so, I would think that a lot of kids would tease young kids who had hearing aids, just because kids are kids.
Typically, we start to see that more around junior high, middle school, where when the kids are a little bit older and they're starting to, they don't want to be different than anybody else. This is where
Social
it's like,
interaction.
gosh, Mom, sorry, I left my hearing aids out at the park. Oops, I forgot I left my hearing aids in my coat pocket and it went through the wash. Oops, you know, things like that. But in my personal opinion, when you're dealing with little ones under the age of 5, if you have a child that you're working with, it's so important to see a pediatric audiologist. My opinion, you want somebody that knows how to work with children, because children cannot say, hey, this is too loud.
Right.
And they know how to work with the parents. They know how to work with the schools and the teachers. And these pediatric audiologists are phenomenal advocates for their children.
Yeah, because kids don't realize that something is too loud.
Right.
You know, they don't know to say, ooh, that's too loud, Mommy.
Right.
They don't know to say that.
Especially if they're 2 months old. So this is...
Even 3 years old.
Exactly.
And 5 years old, yes.
So I feel that, and this is what I had a physician call me last week and said, we have a 5-month-old. Well, are you able to work with them? And, you know, I'm grateful for the call, but I did refer them to a pediatric audiologist who I feel that will do better for the child.
Someone who is well-versed in that age group.
Yeah,
and
very
that can
important.
Know that. Yeah,
very important.
And we need to take another break. Time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun?
Yeah.
I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS.
At the Burrito Factory, their motto has always been to serve quality food with fast, friendly service. But did I mention the taste? When it comes to authentic taste and huge mouth-watering burritos, the Burrito Factory is second to none. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or a catered event, Burrito Factory has the taste of Mexico to satisfy your craving. Burrito Factory on Soledad Canyon Road next to Chi-Chi's Pizza in Canyon Country. Stop in or call ahead 288-0222.
Loss of hearing can affect the quality of life. Santa Clarita Hearing Center can help. They specialize in both preventative hearing loss and corrective measures, including diagnostic tests, new technology hearing aids, cochlear implants, hearing protection, and tinnitus treatment. They can adjust your current hearing aids or fit you for new ones. Santa Clarita Hearing Center also offers sleep molds, swim molds, and musician monitors. Book an appointment today. Log on to SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com, located on McBean Parkway next to the hospital. That's SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
And back. Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Ginny Veloz, who's the owner of Santa Clarita Hearing Center, one of our sponsors. And we're talking about youngsters.
We are.
Yes. And possible acknowledgement that some children don't realize that they have hearing loss. Parents don't realize
No.
that youngsters have hearing loss.
How would they know?
How would they know?
Yeah.
You know, when I was little, when we would go on family trips, my brother and I would play the license plate games where we'd try to
Yes.
find the different states, and he always won. Always, always, always. I could, you know, I don't know. He just was quicker than me. And then in 7th grade, one of my friends got glasses, so I tried them on, and I was like, oh, wow, I could see.
Yeah.
And so I told my mom, and she took me to the eye doctor, and sure enough, I needed glasses. You know, she didn't know. How would she know?
But you aren't wearing them now.
Contacts.
Contacts?
Yes.
I tried contacts and they didn't work for me.
Without my contacts, I can see. I'm not blind. But with my contacts, boy, the
You can
detail.
really see.
I can see the leaves on the trees, and I can see the birds on the branch, and I
Whoa.
can just and when I talk to somebody who's has hearing loss, I tell them, you know, if they're not wearing hearing aids, you can hear. You're not deaf. But with hearing aids, you're going to be able to see the leaves on the trees and
That's right.
the birds on the branch. You're going to get that detail, and you're going to hear so much more, and you're going to realize how much you've been missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And the other thing you can hear is not just the sirens that are, you know, on the emergency vehicles, but you can hear your grandkids, your grandbaby. You know, these are all incentives to assure that your hearing is adequate. And it does fail us. And, you know, we just have to be aware of that and get that hearing screen done.
And I think it's more critical for youngsters.
Absolutely.
I really
mean-
do, because kids are mean a lot of times. If one of their little buddies who's 6 years old or something doesn't hear something that the group is saying, what's wrong with you? Are you deaf? You know?
Well, yeah. That's
And I've heard little kids do that,
I know.
and it's heartbreaking.
Pretty brutal.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I think it's just as important. The hearing aids are definitely programmed differently if you're a child versus an adult, but equally as important whether you're a child or you're an adult. In one case, you're learning speech and language. You're learning in school. You're learning all this stuff. You've got to be able to hear. And at the other end of the spectrum, you know, you've gone through all of those life experiences. Now you get to enjoy your family and your friends, and you get to, you know, do the things you enjoy. And that's hearing. That's what's
is.
important. It's all about just communicating with your family and your friends.
The other thing too, my daughter and granddaughter are both interpreters for the deaf. And when we were going through this pandemic, they couldn't physically see their students. They had to do it through the computer.
Correct.
And they had one heck of a time. It was so stressful for them as being the interpreters, working with the kids, because there was no face-to-face contact. Now that they're back in class, they're, you know, in different groups at different times, in smaller groups, but the kids seem so much happier.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so much happier. And so do the parents, I mean, and the teachers. My daughter and granddaughter both are so relieved that they're back into normality again. And I think it's made a big difference for people with hearing loss.
Yeah, I mean, what I do, I have to have that face-to-face if I'm going to be doing a hearing test. You have to come in and you sit in a sound-treated room and have your hearing tested in the office. After that, once you're wearing hearing aids, I can do almost everything that I do in the office from remote. So if you feel more comfortable staying home and you don't want to come out, or it's just a burden to have to come out and get in the car and go somewhere, let me know, and I'll set you up for remote care, and we can do almost everything programming-wise that I do in the office from your home.
Technology, isn't it
It's
amazing?
amazing.
Great.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
it's literally saved our lives in many, many instances,
Mm-hmm.
especially like you were saying,
Yeah.
with problems like that, especially during that pandemic year, we were stuck in home.
Yeah. Speaking of saving lives, one of my patients lost hearing somewhat suddenly, and we ended up getting her implanted with a cochlear implant. It's been about 7 months, and she's doing really, really well. Um, she was very worried. She still has a difficult time on the phone, and she was worried about what if an emergency came up and she had to call 911. What could she do? And so she decided on her own. I didn't know that this was a concern. I didn't know that, she had this thought. So she decided to go to our sheriff's station and ask them, I have a cochlear implant. I really can't talk on the phone. I text, but I cannot yet talk on the phone. What should I do if I have an emergency? And she said one of the deputies told her, text 911. And
Oh,
I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that you could
Oh,
do
wow.
that.
you can text 911
That's
and they
what she
respond?
said. So if you're
Whoa.
somebody who is deaf and you don't talk on the phone, that in the case of an emergency, now this is the information that was, given to me, and it's something that I'm going to go over and talk to the sheriff's department about,
Oh,
because I think
absolutely.
it's if this needs to be known about.
Oh, absolutely
So
it does. Absolutely.
yeah.
Because that's critical.
Yeah, so I'm gonna verify that, and next month when I'm here, next time I'm here, I will confirm it for you. Or
We'll discuss it.
if you have
Yes.
questions, call me at my office, and I will let you know what I find out, because I'm gonna go sooner rather than later. I just heard this a couple days ago, so yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Text
So Jenny, if you
911.
can
yep,
give our listeners your phone number as well
yes.
and location.
My phone number is 661-388-4135, and I'm located on the Henry Mayo Hospital campus. The address is 23861 McBean Parkway. I'm in Building D, like David, room 14. So you're more than welcome to give me a call if you have any questions about what you've heard here today, or if you have a question about your hearing or tinnitus or children with hearing loss or anything. I'm happy to talk to you.
Great. Dr. Jenny Veloz, phone
Yes.
number again is 661-388-4135. That's 661-388-4135. Jenny, thanks for being on the show again. Great information. We'll look forward to what we can do for the 911 call, because I think that's important information
Yeah.
Yes.
for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, you
yeah,
have your homework cut out, don't
I
you,
will
love?
do. Yes, I do.
sure do. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for being on
Thanks
the
for
show
having
again.
me.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was
And
great
we are
information.
sponsored by Santa Clarita Hearing Center, as well as Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.